Welcome back. Today, we are diving into a legal saga that has been brewing for years and could totally change the internet. We're talking about the US government versus Google. And folks, the final judgment is officially in.
Yep, after a huge trial, a federal court has just dropped its final decision, spelling out a whole new set of rules for the biggest search engine on the planet. And let me be clear, this is not just some fine or a slap on the wrist. We're talking about a major overhaul of how Google is even allowed to do business.
All right, so let's cut right to the chase. What's the bottom line? What did the judge actually order? What is Google being forced to do? And maybe just as important, what did the government ask for that it didn't get?
So the final order is this really interesting mix. On one side, the court hit the brakes on the government's biggest demands. They said no to forcing Google to sell off its Chrome browser, and no to a total ban on those big money deals Google makes to be the default search engine. But, and this is a huge but, what the court did order is still a pretty big deal. Google now has to share some of its key user data with its rivals, it has to let competitors use its search ads, and there's going to be a brand new technical committee to make sure they're playing by the new rules.
Okay, so now that we know the outcome, let's hit rewind for a second. To really get why the judge made these specific calls, we've got to go back and understand what this whole lawsuit was about from the very beginning.
At its heart, the case was actually pretty simple. The US government, along with a bunch of states, said that Google wasn't just a big, successful company. They argued it was actively and illegally squashing its competition to protect its massive monopoly over search and search advertising. The point here wasn't that Google made a great product, it was that they allegedly broke the law to keep it on top.
First things first, the court had to define the battlefield. And we're not talking about just any kind of search, like when you're looking for a new pair of shoes on Amazon. No, we're talking about what's called a general search engine, that one-stop shop you go to for pretty much any question in the universe. And that's the market where Google is king.
And hey, you don't have to take the government's word for it. Just listen to this quote. It's from a top executive at Microsoft, Google's main competitor. He basically admitted in court that when they talk about who they're up against, it's just Google. That one quote tells you everything you need to know about the reality the court was dealing with.
So here's the billion-dollar question. How did Google do it? What were the moves they made that the court said crossed the line from competitive to illegal? Let's break down how this monopoly was built.
First, you just have to wrap your head around this number. 90%. That's Google's approximate piece of the pie for all general searches in the US. So the court looked at that and said, yep, that's a monopoly. The real debate wasn't if they had one, but whether they kept it through a legal means.
Okay, to really get this case, you have to understand the power of scale in the search world. It's like this vicious cycle, or a virtuous one if you're Google. The more people use it, the more data Google gets. That data makes their search results better. And better results, well, they pull in even more users. It creates this chicken and egg problem for anyone trying to compete. How can you possibly build something better without the mountain of data that only Google has?
And this is exactly where the government said Google broke the law. They argued that Google deliberately locked up all the main gateways to the internet, choking off any chance for rivals to get the scale they needed. And what's the most important gateway of all? The browser on your phone, where something like 60% of all searches happen now.
The smoking gun, at least according to the government, was Google's use of these massive payment deals called revenue-sharing agreements. And this quote from a Google executive really says it all. Their philosophy wasn't just to pay partners like Apple to feature Google search. It was to pay them for exclusivity, to make sure no one else even got a chance.
And you know what? The judge agreed. The court decided that these payments, which are worth billions, created this incredibly strong incentive for partners to just stick with Google and not even think about working with anyone else. The judge's own words were that these deals basically freeze the ecosystem in place. Game over for the competition.
So this brings us right back to where we started, the verdict. If the big problem was Google using these deals to deny rivals a fair shot, then how do these new court-ordered rules actually fix that? How do you pry open this market?
The court's answer is basically a three-pronged attack designed to chip away at Google's scale advantage. First, Google has to share some of its key user data to help competitors make their own search results better. Second, it has to let its rivals show Google search ads, which is a huge deal because it gives them a way to make money right away. And third, a new independent committee is going to be watching over Google's shoulder to make sure they're actually doing all this.
So you see what the goal is here, right? It's all about breaking that vicious cycle we talked about. By giving competitors a helping hand with both search quality and with making money, the court is trying to create an environment where a real competitor could finally emerge. But
Here's the twist. Just as the court is laying down the law for the last 20 years of search, a whole new technology is already changing everything. So what does this ruling mean for the next big thing, generative AI?
I mean, even Google's own executives are saying it. This quote from a Google VP admits that AI is creating totally new ways for us to find information, ways that might not involve a traditional search box at all.
And this is where it gets really wild. The trial revealed that these new AI companies, like OpenAI, which makes ChatGPT, and Perplexity, are seen as the first real, meaningful competitors to Google search in over a decade. So a massive tech shift is happening at the exact moment the rules of competition are being totally rewritten. The timing is just incredible. Now, this might be the most crucial, forward-thinking part of the whole judgment. The judge was really smart about this. He made it crystal clear that these new rules don't just apply to old-school search. They explicitly cover Gen AI products, too. He's trying to stop Google from just using its current monopoly to become the monopoly of the next big thing.
So, that leaves us with one massive question. The court has just written a new rulebook for the age of search. But with the entire tech world, including Google, already sprinting towards an AI future, is this ruling really the final word, or is it just the opening shot of a whole new battle we haven't even seen yet?